Marcus Grant's transport ship hit the ground hard. The impact threw him forward into the control panel. His shoulder took the blow. Pain shot down his arm, but he ignored it. Pain was nothing now. Death was coming, and he had to move fast. The warning alarm screamed inside the cockpit. Red lights flashed everywhere. The fuel systems were dead. The engines were destroyed. The power core was leaking radiation into the hull. Marcus had maybe 10 minutes before the whole ship became a tomb of fire. He grabbed the emergency kit from under his seat and ran. The airlock door hissed open. Marcus stepped outside and felt the atmosphere of Karth Prime hit him like a wall. Heat wrapped around him. The air burned his lungs even through his suit. The sky above was dark and angry. Yellow clouds hung low, blocking out the sun. Lightning cracked across the distance. The ground beneath his feet was black sand, still hot from some ancient fire. Marcus looked at his suit display. Temperature outside, 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Atmosphere composition, 78% methane with heavy sulfur compounds. Oxygen levels in the air, less than 1%. The suit's filtration system showed a long red line across its display. Damaged. Failing. The suit could keep him alive for maybe 3 minutes without the filter working right. 3 minutes. He needed to cover 30 kilometers in 3 minutes. That was impossible. Marcus started walking anyway. High above, on the Zephyr orbital station, the scientists watched. Their instruments tracked him. Their cameras followed him. The lead observer, Vexter, stared at the data scrolling across his screen. Subject has exited the craft, the young Zephyr scientist announced. Suit integrity at 45%. Oxygen reserves depleted from impact trauma. Environmental conditions are Class 9 lethal. Vexter's mandibles clicked slowly. He was interested now. The Zephyr had studied humans for 3 cycles. They had learned that humans were weak, fragile, soft. Their bodies broke easily. Their minds broke faster. The Council had concluded that humans were not worth the trouble of serious study. They were not a threat. They were not remarkable, but this one was still moving. How long until death? Vexter asked. Based on oxygen depletion models, approximately 4 minutes, the scientist replied. Perhaps 5 if the subject maintains lower activity levels. Vexter nodded. 5 minutes. They would document it. It would make a good file entry. A human attempting to survive in impossible conditions. Failing, of course. Everything failed eventually. Marcus's lungs hurt. Each breath felt like sucking fire through his throat. His suit was heating up. The damaged filtration system was not working. The air coming through his visor was thick and poisonous. He could taste the sulfur now. It was bitter and wrong. He thought about Elena. His wife was waiting at the research colony in the northern mountains. She had asked him not to go on the supply run alone. She had asked him to wait for another pilot. But supply was low. The colony needed those nutrients and medicine. There was no one else to go. He thought about Sophie, his 7-year-old daughter. She had been crying when he left. She did not understand why her father had to go. She only knew that he was leaving and that she did not want him to go. He had kissed her forehead and promised he would be back before dinner, thought it was now well past dinner. Sophie would be asking her mother where he was. Elena would be telling her that Daddy was coming home soon. Elena would be getting worried. Elena would be checking the communication system, waiting for his signal. Marcus pulled off a piece of the emergency kit. Inside was a small water container, some protein bars, and a repair tape. The tape was meant for small hull breaches. It would not fix his suit's main filter system, but he could use it to create something. Something better than nothing. He ripped strips of the tape and wrapped them around his air intake valve. It was crude. It would not filter the poison completely. It would just slow it down. Just maybe give him a few more minutes of breathing time. It was something. Marcus kept walking. The colony was 30 kilometers away. He had covered maybe 2 kilometers. The temperature was dropping as night came. That was bad. The night on Kareth Prime was not like Earth's night. It was cold. Deadly cold. His suit would lose heat fast. His body would start to shut down. But he would deal with that when it came. On the orbital station, Vexter leaned forward. The subject had done something with his emergency kit. The oxygen depletion rate had slowed. Not by much. Maybe he had given himself 10 more minutes of life. 10 minutes was still nothing. It was still a failure to stop the inevitable. Yet Vexter found himself interested in those 10 minutes. "Continue observation," he said to his team. "I want full biological monitoring. Record everything. Heart rate, respiration, neural activity. Everything." The young scientist's mandibles twitched. "Full observation? This is just a human that is going to die." "Yes," Vexter said. "But it is taking longer to die than our models predict. I want to know why." Marcus stumbled on a rock. He caught himself on his knee. The pain was sharp. He felt something tear in his leg. Torn muscle or pulled ligament. It did not matter. He stood up and kept moving. The sky above was black now. Night had come fast. The temperature on his suit display dropped to 180 degrees. Then 150. The cold was becoming a physical thing, pressing down on him. His teeth chattered inside his helmet. His fingers were numb. His legs felt like they were filled with ice. He could stop. He could lie down right here. It would be easier. The cold would take him to sleep. It would be quick. It would be over. Sophie's face flashed in his mind. Not sleeping. Crying. Waiting. Marcus pushed forward. Ow 1. He covered 8 kilometers. His suit was failing. The power was running low. The heating elements were dying. The temperature inside his suit was dropping toward freezing. Hour 2. He covered 6 more kilometers. The pain in his leg had spread. His whole left side was screaming. His lungs were raw. Blood in his mouth. His body was shutting down system by system. Hour 3. He covered 4 more kilometers. His suit was almost dead. Maybe 30% power. The filtration was barely working. He was breathing poison now. Real poison. Not filtered. Just raw, burning chemicals filling his lungs. On the orbital station, Vexter stared at the data in complete silence. The human had now been exposed to Class 9 lethal conditions for 14 hours. Every biological model said this was impossible. Every medical standard said he should be dead. Every calculation said his heart should have stopped beating 7 hours ago. Yet his heart was still beating. The young scientist stood beside Vexter, equally stunned. The subject is still alive. This is not possible. And yet, Vexter said slowly, here he is, alive. Marcus could see lights in the distance. The colony. Still far, but closer now. So much closer. He could make it. He had to make it. Elena was there. Sophie was there. They were waiting for him. His suit's power died as he climbed the first mountain ridge. The heating failed. The lights shut off. The air circulation stopped. He was left with nothing but his own failing body to keep him alive. Marcus ripped off the helmet. The poison air hit his face. It burned. It tore at his throat and lungs. His eyes watered until he could barely see. His body convulsed once, twice, 3 times. Then something changed inside him. His lungs seized. His throat began to thicken. His body started doing something it had never done before. Something that should not be possible. He kept moving toward the lights. On the orbital station, every sensor went wild. The human's biological readings showed impossible changes. His cellular structure was transforming. His metabolism was shifting into unknown patterns. His body was not dying, it was adapting. "This is not possible," the young scientist whispered. Vexter said nothing. He just watched the human below keep moving through the poison and the cold and the dark. Moving toward the lights that meant home, that meant family. That meant he was not yet ready to quit. The human kept moving, because humans did not quit. Not really. Not ever. Not when it mattered. By the second day, the Zephyr Council had escalated their observation from routine study to critical research status. Marcus Grant had survived for 26 hours in conditions that should have killed him in minutes. The sensors did not lie. The data did not make mistakes. Yet the human was still moving, still breathing, still alive. Vexter convened an emergency assembly. The other council members arrived with confusion on their faces. Why would a human's death require an urgent meeting? The Zephyr had studied hundreds of human samples over the cycles. Humans died like all other creatures died. Weak, broken, quick. This human was different. The subject has now survived 26 hours of Class 9 lethal exposure, Vexter announced. Every biological model we have says this is impossible. His oxygen reserves should have been depleted 14 hours ago. His cellular structures should have crystallized from the temperature. His lungs should have filled with toxic fluid. Council member Zextil's mandibles clicked sharply. "You are certain of these numbers?" "Completely certain," Vexter replied. "I have reviewed the data 20 times. The human is somehow still functioning. Still moving? The question is how." Dr. Helena Voss, the council's chief medical researcher, stepped forward. She had been studying the human's biological readings since the first hour. What she had found was disturbing. What she had found was impossible. What she had found was going to change everything they thought they knew. "The human's body is not surviving through will alone," Dr. Voss said. "It is actively adapting. His metabolism has shifted. We are seeing anaerobic processing in his cells. His white blood count has tripled. His body is producing compounds that should not exist in human chemistry." The council members exchanged looks. This was not possible. "Show us," demanded council member Rethi K. Dr. Voss activated the medical display. Images of cells appeared. They showed transformation. The human cellular structure was changing in real time, not slowly over generations. Right now, in hours. His body was rewriting its own biology to survive the planet below. When a human body is subjected to extreme stress, it does not simply break, Dr. Voss explained. It adapts. It changes. It becomes something different from what it was before. The human below is not the same biological entity that crashed 26 hours ago. He is becoming something new, something stronger, something built to survive Kareth Prime. Council member Zextil stood. His mandibles clicked rapidly. This was anger. This was confusion. This violates every principle of biology we understand. Rapid adaptation like this requires genetic rewriting at conscious levels. Humans do not have conscious control over their biology. Yet the data shows conscious choice driving the adaptation, Dr. Voss replied. The human knows his body is changing. He's accepting those changes. He's driving those changes through sheer force of will. Vexter looked at the data again. The human's heart rate had spiked when the suit failed. Panic response, expected. But then it had normalized. Not calmed down, normalized. The human's breathing pattern had changed too, become more efficient, as if his lungs were learning to process poison. Where's the human now? Vexter asked. 22 kilometers from the colony, the monitoring technician replied. Still moving. Projected arrival in 8 to 10 hours. 10 hours. The human would keep moving for another 10 hours, walking through poison and cold and pain, walking until he reached his destination, or until his body finally gave out. And his body was not giving out. His body was adapting faster with each passing hour. Down on Kareth Prime, Marcus did not know about the Zephyr Council's emergency meeting. He did not care about biological adaptation or cellular transformation. He only knew that his legs were moving, that the ground was passing beneath him, that the colony was getting closer. His body was on fire. Not from heat, from change. Something was happening inside him that he did not understand and could not stop. His lungs felt raw and strange. His blood felt like it was boiling in his veins. His skin was burning hot, then burning cold. Waves of heat and cold crashed through him. This was what dying felt like, he thought. This was the end, but his legs kept moving. The night was completely dark now. The clouds had blocked out every star. Marcus could not see more than a few feet in front of his face. He navigated by memory and instinct. The mountain ridge should be ahead. The colony was beyond that ridge. He had to reach the ridge. His foot caught on a rock. He fell hard. His head hit the ground. The impact hurt. Everything hurt now. There was pain in his shoulders, his legs, his chest, his head. Pain in places he did not even know he could feel. He lay there for a moment, breathing hard, wondering if this was the moment he could not get back up. This was the moment when his body would finally refuse to continue. He thought about Alana's face when he told her he was going on the supply run. She had been worried. She had felt that something was wrong. She had asked him to wait, asked him to stay home. He had not listened. His daughter Sophie would be sleeping now. In the colony, in the safe rooms underground, in the warm beds they had built as a family, Sophie would be curled up under blankets, waiting for her father to come home, waiting for him to keep the promise he had made. Marcus pushed his body up. His arm shook. His leg shook. Everything shook. But he stood. He kept walking. The cold was getting worse. Much worse. His suit was completely dead now. The armor was the only thing keeping the poison from his skin directly. The temperature inside the armor had dropped to freezing. Ice was forming on the inside of his helmet. His breathing was different now. Harder, slower, like his lungs were not working right anymore. Like something inside him had changed them. The poison did not burn as much as it had before. His body had gotten used to it. That was strange. That was wrong. That should not be possible. On the orbital station, Dr. Vos was running analysis after analysis. The human's mutation rate had exceeded all projections. His body was changing faster than her instruments could measure. His cellular structures were becoming something that should not exist in nature. His adaptation was not slow and subtle. It was rapid and violent, and driven by something that medical science did not have a name for. Is he still human? Asked Council Member Rethick. Or is he becoming something else? Based on the data, he is both, Dr. Vos said. He is still recognizably human, but he is also becoming something new. Something that should not exist in our knowledge base. A human that can survive in conditions that kill every other species. The council sat in heavy silence. They had come to study humans. They had concluded that humans were nothing special. Now they were watching a human do something that rewrote every conclusion they had made. Vexter looked at the visual feed. The human was visible now, moving across the dark landscape. Just a small figure in the endless dark. Alone. Broken. Still moving. Continue full observation, Vexter commanded. I want to know what he becomes. Hour 4. The temperature had dropped to 120 degrees. Marcus's suit was frozen solid in places. He was barely moving. Each step took longer than the last. Hour 5. His suit was falling apart. Pieces were breaking off. The armor that had protected him for so long was becoming useless. Hour 6. He could see the mountain ridge now. It was there. It was real. He could see it through the dark. Hour 7. His legs were not following his commands properly anymore. They moved, but they were not his legs anymore. They were something else. Something stronger, but also something that hurt in ways he did not understand. Hour 8. The ridge was close now. Very close. Marcus could see rocks. Could see the edge of the climb ahead. His body was breaking. His suit was destroyed. His mind was starting to fade into a strange place where pain and determination and love all merged into one thing that pushed him forward. He climbed the ridge. At the top. He looked down at the other side. In the distance, he saw lights. Real lights. The colony. Alana. Sophie. Hung. His legs gave out. Marcus fell to his knees. He could not move anymore. His body had reached its limit. The transformation was complete. He was no longer the man who had crashed. He was something new. Something the Zephyr had never seen before. On the orbital station, every alarm went silent. The readings stabilized. The human had stopped moving. "He is dead?" asked the young scientist. "No," Dr. Voss said, staring at the new readings. "He's just beginning to survive." Marcus woke up on the cold stone. His eyes opened to darkness. For a moment, he did not remember where he was. Then it all came back. The crash, the burning air, the poison, the walk that never ended. He tried to move. His muscles screamed. Every part of his body hurt in ways he had never experienced. But he could move. His arms worked. His legs worked. The paralysis had passed. He pushed himself up. The sky was beginning to lighten. The night was ending. He had made it through another night. He was still alive. The lights of the colony were closer now. Much closer. They were down the slope in the valley below. He could see them clearly in the early morning light. The habitat lights. The shield generators. The domed research centers where his wife and daughter were waiting for him. Marcus got to his feet. His legs were unstable. They felt wrong. Stronger in some ways, but wrong in all ways. His skin felt different too. When he looked down at his arms, he saw something that made him stop. His skin was dark. Not the normal brown of his skin. Dark. Almost black in patches. And it was textured. Scaled almost. Like something that was not quite skin anymore. He should have been afraid. He should have been horrified at what he was seeing. But he was too tired to be afraid. He was too close to home to worry about what he was becoming. Marcus walked down the slope toward the colony. Each step was heavy. His new body was learning how to move. His new legs had different balance. His new weight was distributed differently. The first alarm went off at the colony entrance. Elena heard it from the research lab. She looked up from her work. An alarm. Something had triggered the perimeter sensors. She checked the monitor. Movement. Something moving toward the colony from the outside. Her heart jumped. Marcus. It had to be Marcus. But the movement pattern was wrong. It was too slow. Too heavy. Whatever was approaching was not moving like a normal human. She ran to the entrance lock. The camera showed the landscape outside. And there, walking slowly through the dawn light, was something that had once been human. His suit was destroyed, hanging off him in pieces. His skin was exposed, and it was covered in dark patches. His hair was gone. His eyes were sunken and red. He looked like something that had been burnt and broken and left to die in the desert. Elena recognized him anyway. "Marcus," she whispered. She hit the emergency lock release. The doors opened. The poison air rushed in. Elena did not care. She ran outside. Marcus saw her and tried to move faster. His new body would not cooperate. He stumbled. She caught him. He was burning hot. His skin was slick with something that might have been sweat or might have been blood. She could feel his heart pounding inside his chest. Wild and fast and somehow still working. "I'm here," Marcus said. His voice was rough and broken. "I came back." Elena was crying now. Not from joy. From horror. She was looking at what her husband had become. "What happened to you? What did they do to you?" "Nothing," Marcus said. "I did this. I had to." Elena dragged him inside. She sealed the doors. The alarms stopped. The poison air was locked outside. But the poison was inside her husband now. Inside his cells. Inside his blood. She carried him to the medical bay. She laid him on the scanner. She ran diagnostics. What the scanner showed her did not make sense. Marcus's biology had fundamentally changed. His white blood cells had tripled. His cellular structures showed reinforcement patterns that should not exist in any organic system. His genetic expression had shifted in ways that suggested rapid evolutionary adaptation. His body was not human anymore. Not quite. But it was also not alien. It was something in between. Something that had been human and had been forced to become something else. "The Zephyr," Marcus said from the medical table. "They were watching me. The whole time." Elena nodded. She had suspected as much. The Zephyr orbital station was in high orbit above Karath. They tracked everything. They monitored everything. A human's walk across the poison plains would not have gone unnoticed. She moved to the communication console. She initiated the standard Zephyr contact protocol. The response came quickly. Too quickly. They had been waiting for her to call. "Dr. Grant," Vixter's voice came through. "We've been monitoring your husband's situation with great interest." Elena felt rage boil up inside her. "You knew. You knew he was out there, and you did nothing." "We did not intervene because we wanted to observe what would happen," Vexter replied. "Your husband has shown us something remarkable. Something we did not believe was possible. He is still alive." "Of course he is alive," Elena shot back. "He is human. He does not give up." Elena made a decision. It was a bold decision. A dangerous decision. But it was the only decision that made sense. She gathered all the data. Every scan. Every reading. Every piece of evidence that showed what her husband had become. She compiled it all, and she sent it directly to the Zephyr Council with a message attached. The message was simple and clear. The message was a warning and a truth and a promise all at once. "You studied my husband thinking he was weak. Thinking he was fragile. Thinking he would fail. You were wrong. My husband did not fail because humans do not fail when it matters. When we have someone to protect, when we have someone to love, when we have a purpose, we become something that transcends biology. We become unstoppable. We become something you have never seen before. We become what we need to become to survive. And this is just one human. One human who walked through poison for his family. Imagine what we are capable of if we are not walking alone. Imagine what humanity can do when we stand together." Elena hit send. The message arrived on the Zephyr station while Vexter was still speaking with her. He stopped mid-sentence. He read the data she had sent. He looked at his team. They looked back at him with the same understanding. They had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated humanity. Back at the colony, Elena returned to the medical bay. Marcus was sleeping now. His body had finally shut down. Too much stress. Too much change. Too much everything. But he was sleeping naturally. His breathing was steady. His heart was working. His new body was still functioning. Sophie came to the medical bay entrance. She had heard something. Some commotion in the colony. She saw her mother standing over the figure on the medical bed. "Mommy?" Sophie's voice was small and unsure. "Come here, baby," Elena said. Sophie walked closer. She looked at the sleeping figure. She did not recognize him at first. His appearance was too changed, too different. But his smell was the same. His presence was the same. Her father was the same, even though his body was not. "Daddy?" she whispered. Marcus's eyes opened. Even burned and broken and changed, his eyes found his daughter. He tried to smile. His face was too damaged to smile properly. But his eyes smiled. "I'm home," he said. Sophie climbed into the medical bed beside her father. Elena wrapped her arms around both of them. On the orbital station, Vexter stared at the data Elena had sent. Every reading showed the same thing. Every measurement confirmed it. Human biology was not what they thought it was. Human potential was not what they thought it was. Humans were something far more dangerous, far more adaptable, far more remarkable than the Zephyr had ever calculated. And they had just been shown the proof. The Zephyr Council chambers fell silent when Vexter presented the data. Not quiet silence. The kind of silence that came when every member of a group realized at the same moment that everything they believed was wrong. For 3 cycles, they had studied humans. Their conclusions were clear. Humans were fragile creatures with limited biological potential. Humans were suitable for certain kinds of labor and commerce. Humans were not a threat. Humans were not remarkable. The data from Karath Prime proved them all wrong. Dr. Helena Voss stood before the Vide Council with information that contradicted 3 cycles of research. In the 72-hour period of observation, Subject Grant's mutation rate had exceeded projected evolutionary timescales by a factor of 4,000. His body was not simply surviving in lethal conditions. His body was transforming in real time into something designed to survive those conditions. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Voss said. Her mandibles clicked carefully. She was choosing her words with extreme precision. "Every biological model we have suggests that such rapid adaptation is impossible. Adaptation through evolution takes generations. Adaptation through genetics takes decades of exposure. This human changed his entire cellular structure in hours." Council member Zex leaned forward. His eyes were dim. Confusion, concern, fear, all 3 at once. "You are suggesting that humans can simply decide to change their biology?" "I am suggesting something far more remarkable," Dr. Voss replied. "I am suggesting that humans have evolved a mechanism for rapid biological adaptation that is triggered by extreme stress and driven by emotional motivation." The human below was not trying to survive for himself. He was surviving for his family. That emotional driver appears to have activated biological pathways we did not know existed in human physiology. The council chambers erupted. Multiple members speaking at once. Questions coming from every direction. How was this possible? How had they missed this? What did it mean? Vexter raised his mandibles for silence. The council obeyed. Vexter was the oldest among them. His word carried weight. "If this is true," Vexter said slowly, "then our understanding of humanity is completely wrong. We have not studied a weak species. We have studied a species with unlimited biological potential masked by normal circumstances. More than that," Dr. Voss added, "we have been studying a species that does not simply want to survive. A species that will do anything to survive. A species that is willing to destroy itself to save others. If we have missed this fundamental trait, we have likely missed everything else." Council member Rethick stood. She was the most aggressive member of the council. "Then the humans are a threat. We should move to military action immediately." "No." Elena's message was read aloud. The words hit the council like a physical force. Words about human potential. Words about human unity. Words about what humanity could become if they stood together. The council fell silent again. "There is more," Vexter said. His mandibles clicked slowly. "The humans have transmitted a message to us. They are not asking for peace. They are not begging for mercy. They are offering us a choice. Work with humanity, or face what humanity becomes when united." The implication was clear. The humans were not afraid. The humans were not begging. The humans were making demands as equals. Vexter had never felt anything like this. For 3 cycles, the Zephyr had studied humanity from a position of superiority. The Zephyr were older, more advanced, more civilized. Humanity was something to be cataloged and stored away. Now, Vexter understood. They had been cataloging fire. They had been storing away a weapon they did not understand. They had been studying something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. "We need to reassess our position with humanity," Vexter said. His voice was firm. "We need to treat them as the species they actually are, not the species we assumed they were." The council chambers became a war room. Every decision made in the past 3 cycles was now questioned. Every trade agreement with human worlds was flagged. Every military assessment was updated. Every diplomatic profile was rewritten. And in the center of it all was one man. One human who had walked through fire and become something new. One human who had forced an entire galactic council to admit they were wrong. Back on Kareth Prime, Marcus woke again. His body had stabilized. The transformation was complete. He looked different now. His skin held dark scaling in patches. His eyes had taken on a quality that made people uncomfortable. He was still Marcus. But Marcus was also something else. Elena had brought him clothes. He put them on. They fit. They had to be specially made now. His body was different, larger, stronger, but still recognizable as human. Sophie climbed into his lap. She was not afraid of how he looked. She was his daughter. She only knew that her father had come home. "Does it hurt?" Sophie asked. "Yes," Marcus said. He did not lie to his daughter. "It hurts a lot, but I'm okay. The aliens were watching you," Sophie said. "Yes," Marcus replied. "They were watching, and I think maybe they learned something." Elena stood beside them. She had reviewed the data from the Zephyr station multiple times. She could see the pattern, the escalation of interest, the shift from casual observation to desperate study. The moment when the council realized that everything they thought was wrong, Marcus had done more than survive. He had changed how an entire civilization understood a species. A message came through the communication system. Official Zephyr Council transmission. Elena activated it. Vexter's face appeared on the screen. The old Zephyr looked tired, like he had not slept in cycles. "Dr. Grant, we request a formal meeting. We have concluded that our previous assessment of humanity was incomplete. We wish to discuss a new relationship, one based on mutual respect and understanding." Elena looked at Marcus. Marcus nodded. "We will meet," Elena said. "But we have conditions." "Name them," Vexter replied. "Humanity is not a species to be studied from a distance. We are a species to be recognized as equals. We require full diplomatic status. We require trade agreements that are fair. We require respect." There was a pause, a moment where the Zephyr Council was deciding whether to accept these demands or reject them. "Agreed," Vexter said. "You have our agreement." The communication ended. Elena and Marcus looked at each other. They did not smile. This was not victory. This was the beginning of something new. A relationship between species that could have been enemies or allies. Sophie yawned in Marcus's arms. "Can we stay here?" Sophie asked. Or do we have to go back to Earth? Marcus looked out the window at Karth Prime's toxic sky. This planet had tried to kill him. His body had adapted to survive it. But it was not home. We will go back, Marcus said. But not for a long time. First, your mother and I have to teach the Zephyr what humans really are. Elena touched her husband's shoulder. She could feel the difference in his body. The strength. The change. But underneath it all, he was still Marcus. He was still the man she loved. He had walked through fire for them, Dodd, and now he was going to walk into a future that none of them could have imagined. On the orbital station, Vexter stood alone in his observation chamber. He looked down at Karth Prime, at the dark sky and the burning ground, at the place where a human had transformed himself into something impossible. The Zephyr had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 cycles. They had seen countless species rise and fall. They had studied the biology of 100,000 worlds. They had never seen anything like humanity, and now they had to figure out what to do with a species that could not be controlled, a species that would not be broken, a species that would become stronger under pressure. The Zephyr would have to adapt, or they would be left behind by a species they had once dismissed as weak. 3 months later, Marcus Grant walked into the formal chamber aboard the Zephyr orbital station. His body had settled into its new form. The dark scaling on his skin had become fixed. His eyes had stabilized into their changed state. He was no longer fully human. He was no longer becoming. He was transformed. Elena walked beside him. She wore formal human diplomatic clothing. Behind them came Sophie in a smaller suit designed just for her. The child looked around the alien chamber with the fearlessness that only children could possess. The Zephyr Council stood in formal arrangement. All of them. Every member. They stood because humanity deserved that respect. They had learned that lesson on Karth Prime. Vexter stepped forward. His mandibles held a careful, neutral position. Welcome, Ambassador Grant. Welcome, Dr. Grant. Welcome, young Sophie. I am not an ambassador, Marcus said. His voice was still rough from the transformation. I am just a human. I work for the Earth Colonial Authority. But I am here to speak about what my people are. Sophie stepped forward and handed a data chip to Vexter. The child was not intimidated by the alien. She had seen her father transform. Aliens were nothing compared to that. My family wants to give you this, Sophie said in her clear child voice. It is a record of human history. It shows everything we have done, everything we have overcome. Vexter accepted the chip carefully. His data reading showed millions of years of human history. Wars, peace, art, science, suffering, growth. Everything that made humans what they were. Why are you giving us this? Asked Council Member Rethick. Because you need to understand what you did not understand before, Elena said. You measured human weakness because you only studied humans who had already reached a comfortable existence. You never studied humans under pressure. You never studied humans fighting for their lives. That is when we become what we truly are. Marcus added, every human civilization that survived did so because we refused to accept failure. We changed. We adapted. We became whatever we needed to become. The Zephyr studied us for 3 cycles and missed that completely. You looked at our biology without understanding our spirit. Vexter's mandibles clicked slowly. Understanding, acceptance, respect, all 3 at once. The data from your walk across Karth Prime has been reviewed by the entire council. Every expert has reached the same conclusion. Humanity represents a species with potential we have never encountered before. And it frightens you, Marcus said. It was not a question. Yes, Vexter replied honestly. You terrify us. A species that will walk through poison for their children. A species that will destroy itself to protect what it loves. A species that grows stronger under adversity. These are not the traits of a peaceful species. No, Marcus said. But we are not aggressive by nature either. We only fight when we have to. We only push when we have no choice. We have learned over millions of years that war destroys everyone. So we choose peace when possible. But we choose survival always. The Zephyr Council chambers fell silent. The formal proceedings had turned into a conversation. A real conversation between species that were learning to understand each other. Sophie tugged on her father's sleeve. "Can't we go now?" she whispered. "This is boring." Several of the Zephyr mandibles twitched. That was almost laughter. "Yes," Marcus said to his daughter. He turned to the council. "We have other business to attend to, but I wanted you to know that humanity accepts your offer of formal alliance. But understand this. We are not the species you studied. We are not weak creatures that you can manage. We are equals, and we will be treated as equals." "Agreed," Vexter said. The formal alliance was signed that day. Trade agreements were established. Diplomatic channels were opened. The Zephyr agreed to share certain technologies with humanity. Humanity agreed to stop producing certain weapons that the Zephyr found destabilizing. It was the beginning of a new era. An era where humanity was no longer a mystery to be studied. An era where humanity was a recognized power in galactic politics. Marcus left the chamber with his family. As they walked through the station's corridors, workers from a dozen different species watched him pass. They had all heard the story. They all knew what the human had done. They all understood that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. The human was no longer prey. The human was no longer study subject. The human was something new. Something powerful. Something that could not be ignored. Back on the colony on Karath Prime, they built a monument. It showed the path that Marcus had walked. It showed the distance he had covered. It showed what one human had done, driven by love for his family. The inscription was simple. Just a few words. But those words carried weight. One human walked through fire. A species woke up. The galaxy changed. Months passed. Then years. The alliance between humanity and the Zephyr strengthened. Other species began to pay attention. The Zephyr had never admitted they were wrong about anything. Now they admitted they had been wrong about humanity. Other species began to reconsider their own assessments of the human race. Some recognized humanity as a threat that had to be managed carefully. Others recognized humanity as a potential partner. All of them recognized that humanity was not what they had thought. Marcus Grant became a symbol. Not a symbol of victory. A symbol of something deeper. A symbol of what humans could become when pushed to their absolute limits. When everything else is taken away, the human will still push forward. The human will still choose survival. The human will still fight for family. On Earth, Marcus's story was told and retold. Every human knew what he had done. Every human understood what it meant. The entire species understood that they had been recognized. Not as weak creatures. Not as primitive creatures. As creatures of untapped potential. Vexter received a new assignment. He was made the official Zephyr liaison to Earth. For the next decade, he worked directly with human governments and human scientists. He learned about human culture, human art, human music, human philosophy. And every day, his understanding of humanity deepened. Every day, he understood more about what had driven Marcus to walk through poison. About the love that could override every biological limit. About the spirit that no amount of adversity could break. Sophie grew up on the colony. She grew up as the daughter of the man who changed the galaxy. She could have been famous. She could have been celebrated. Instead, she chose to be a scientist. She chose to study biology. She chose to continue her father's legacy of understanding what humans were truly capable of. Elena retired from active research. She wrote books. She gave speeches. She told the story of her husband's transformation in ways that helped other species understand what humans were. Marcus lived a quiet life. He worked in administration. He helped manage the growing human presence in Zephyr space. He watched his family grow. He watched his world change. And every day, he remembered the walk across Karth Prime, the moment when his body had adapted, the moment when he had decided that he would not die, the moment when he chose his family over his own survival. Years later, a young Zephyr student asked Marcus a simple question. Why did you not stop? When your suit failed, when the temperature was killing you, when everything told you that you would die, why did you not simply stop? Marcus thought about this for a long moment. Then he answered, because stopping meant losing them. And I had already lost everything else. My ship, my supplies, my protection, my hope. Everything was gone. The only thing I had left was the will to reach my family. I could not lose that too. A human can survive without many things, but we cannot survive without purpose, without someone to fight for, without love. And that is what the Zephyr never understood. We are not strong because our bodies are strong. We are strong because we have reasons to survive that are bigger than survival itself. The young Zephyr student processed this, then asked, do all humans have this strength? Yes, Marcus replied, but most never need to find it. Most humans live comfortable lives, but the strength is there. It waits. And when the moment comes that we need it, we find it. Sometimes it is big strength like mine. Sometimes it is small strength. The strength to be kind when we want to be cruel. The strength to forgive when we want revenge. The strength to keep going when we want to quit. The student nodded slowly. Understanding was beginning. Understanding would take time, but it was beginning. The galaxy had expected the human to die. Instantly, it had no idea what humans were truly made of, and now it was learning.